Hi everyone, Rowan here. Today I just thought I'd make a little quick tutorial looking at before and after trend analysis. This is probably the most simplest form of marketing mix modeling where we're looking at revenue as well as one variable that has changed. In this case, it's paid search ads. Generally, when looking at data, you want to have at least 1 year's worth of data broken down by week, or if you want to look at a monthly breakdown, I would suggest having at least 3 years worth of data. But in this case, we're looking at 1 year's worth of data broken down into 52 weeks. We have the time frame. We've got the revenue driven by the mock-up store, well, the mock store. We'll just say this is a e-commerce startup store that's essentially been driving this level of revenue. And by week 26, they started running search ads. And the reason why this is important these days is because with the depreciation of cookies, we finding it a lot more difficult to track users using data-driven attribution with tools like Google Analytics because of privacy compliance and a lot of users declining cookies, as well as the privacy levels on devices such as iOS devices. It really limits our ability to track everyone that we're driving to our website. And the cool thing about this is you can also use it to track offline media or the effect of offline media, such as print articles. So in this case, we're looking at search ads, but you could essentially have magazine print ads here, and the same would apply. So we're going to start with essentially we need to look at the time period in which the ads were running. So we had search ads running for 12 weeks in this example. And in order to have a fair comparison, we will need to look at the 12 weeks prior, um, which would be essentially row 15 to row 26 is the revenue for the 12 weeks prior to search ads. So the first step we have to do is basically calculate the average revenue before and the average revenue during. Um, cool. So to calculate the average revenue before, you're just going to use a basic average formula in Excel, and you're going to select the revenue for the 12 weeks. Sorry, if I said days before, I mean weeks. The 12 weeks prior to running search ads. And you can see that our average revenue for that period is just over 9,000 Rand. We're now going to do the same formula to calculate the average revenue driven during the search ad period, which is also 12 weeks. And we can see that the revenue there is just over double, coming in at 18,655 Rand. The next thing we need to calculate for this is the average ad spend over the period where we were running search ads. And this is the same formula. So we're going to do equals average, open brackets, select the 12-week period where we had search ads, and we can see that the average spend there is 858 Rand. Now we want to see what the difference in revenue was from the period before versus the period after. So we're just going to calculate by saying the average revenue during minus the average revenue before the ads. And we can see that the difference there is just over 9,500 Rand. So if you want to calculate the percentage change there on the new revenue versus the revenue before we ran ads, you can just calculate it by selecting the increase in revenue divided by the revenue before. And if we put that as a percentage, you can see that that has increased by just over double, being 106%. The next step we want to calculate is essentially the return on ad spend, or return on investment, in other words. And that's essentially going to be equal to, open brackets, the difference or the increase in ad spend minus what we had to spend on ads as an average over the 12 weeks, and then that's going to be divided by the ad spend again. So here we're essentially looking at a 10.1% increase on ad spend, meaning that for every rand we spent on search ads, we were able to drive an increase in revenue of 10 rand and 16 cents. So this is one of the easiest ways to prove the value, where you only have one variable that's changing within your data set. And we are also going to just look at how we plot this on a graph. So we'll start by selecting the data set here. We're going to go to insert, and we're going to go to recommended charts. And I think the best one here, we would want to look at a line graph. So we're going to insert that line graph there. And I mean, without the additional calculations, because there's only one variable, it's pretty clear to see that when we started spending on search, there was a huge uplift in revenue. But we want to kind of prove that further and visualize that further. So what we're going to do is add another column here. That's essentially the average revenue before, and then another one for the average revenue during the search ads. And another way that's clear to indicate that it was the search ads driving this performance is the fact that as soon as the search ads stopped, you can see the revenue dips back down to pretty normal levels here after week 39. So in order to calculate the average before, which we've already done, but you can also kind of do it on the fly if you want to. So, sorry, I'm just checking. There's 12 rows. So we're looking from week 14. We're going to use the average formula. You can either just already select the revenue before that we've calculated here and anchor that cell with the $, and then drag it down. Alternatively, if you haven't done these sort of pre-steps, you can also do this by just saying equals, the same way we did before, average, open brackets, select the date, the week range here of the previous 12 weeks, and you can see it calculates the same. Bearing in mind that when you drag this formula, you want to have it anchored by putting $signs before the B and the number, so that it doesn't move the formula as we drag this down. So that's how we put the average revenue before on the data table. And we're going to want to do the same for the average revenue after, or rather during, the search ads. So I'm just going to do it the easy way because we've already calculated here, and select that average revenue, anchor the H20 cell so that it doesn't move when we drag the formula, and then drag that down. Now, what we want to do is include these average revenues on the visualization to just further visualize what we've calculated here. So you can either select your data table again, and you can insert a new graph, same way using the line graph. And you can quite easily see that Excel has just populated that graph, but it's also included the average revenue for the 12 weeks before, being the yellow line, versus the average revenue during the 12 weeks of search ads, being the green line. So we can see that that's pretty consistent, minus the drop off we see on week 33, which could have just been something like an anomaly. But the average is still very much higher than what we were seeing before. Another way to do it is to come into your existing graph that you've created and right click on the graph, select data. You're going to add a new legend on the left hand side of this table here. You're going to select the average revenue before, and you can just use Control Shift let me just select it because the control shift is stopping there. Let's just select the series name there, average revenue before, and then we want to select the series values, which will essentially be the full 52-week range so that it populates on the graph properly. As you can see, that's added the yellow line for the average revenue before we started running the search ads. And then we're going to add another legend for the average revenue during the search ads. The series name, we're just going to select the column title on the top of the table, and then we're going to select the full value range for the 52 weeks on column E. And you can see, let me just accept that, and you can see that that's now edited our chart to include the revenue per week, the paid search ad spend in that 12-week period, as well as the average revenue before and the average revenue during the ads. So this is one of the easiest ways to kind of prove the value of your marketing. There are much more complex ways in terms of marketing mix modeling, but today I thought I'd just start with the simplest way. And this is a great way if you're a new business that's starting up and you just want to see, you've started your business, you're driving okay revenue, but you've just started advertising on your first platform, whether it be newspapers or print magazines, or if it's search ads or social ads across, Meta's platforms. So this would work for any of those cases. We're basically just proving that the money that was spent on the ads has returned 10 times its value in terms of revenue. So this is a clear way to prove that the advertising is working, and it's also a good way to justify for additional budgets as a marketer if you're proving a 10 times, over 10 times return on investment. So I think that's the quick video that I wanted to put up today. Feel free to comment. Let me know if there's any questions, and I'm happy to engage with you guys. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers.